Hi guys, and welcome back to a slightly delayed and re-recorded version of our Stars and Stripes and Maple Syrup. This week we have with us Rebecca Shaw from the SAFC NASA group. She is the big cheese, the head honcho. Rebecca, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Gavin. Nice to speak to you.
Again.
Okay,
so those of you who don't know, we did this on Sunday, which is our normal record day. I get to the end of the 45 minutes I think we spent on the Zoom, only to discover that I hadn't hit record. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to go over the 0-0 draw with Charlton was Saturday.
Yep.
And then obviously we beat Fleetwood last night. So we'll try and hit both games. Did we have another midweek game last week that we hadn't spoken?
No, I don't think there was a midweek one last week.
Okay, good. So we don't have two.
Yeah, just 2 games.
So look, I think the 90 minutes against Charlton and the first 45 minutes against Fleetwood,
yep,
from a productivity perspective, are pretty much the same game.
Defensively pretty solid, but nothing in the attack at all.
Yeah. Which is surprising given that we have the leading scorer in the division.
Yeah.
But Charlton was a much better performance, I thought. I felt as though they moved the ball around well. I thought that defensively they were solid. And I think on another day, as we said when we did this the first time, we might have had 3 or 4 in that first half. Stewart going close with a few headers.
Yep.
And it was, I don't know, I just felt like a very Sunderland performance coming off the win against Wigan where everyone was G'd up and ready for a good performance. And they mail it in.
So I wasn't expecting that Wigan result at all. Those first couple of games of Alex Neil's tenure, I was thinking, it's going to take him a long time to turn this around. I really couldn't see, coming out of the game before Wigan, I really couldn't see the squad getting that spark to get a result against Wigan, knowing how in form Wigan had been going into that game. But I was happy to see that he did make the change defensively to give Doyle a rest and to bring in Arby. So I wasn't expecting that, but given, Alex Neil's obviously got the measure of this squad pretty quickly. He knows the youngsters are probably overplayed for their level of experience, and that really worked out well. Arby's done great in the few games that he's played for us. And now, hang on a minute. Did he come in against Wigan or did he come in against Charlton?
No, he came in against Wigan, played against Charlton. And then we thought, I didn't think he'd play yesterday against Fleetwood.
That's right.
He got the start against Fleetwood.
I think that change in the defence has really done us well. We came into the Charlton game, kept a clean sheet. That was great. And then last night against Fleetwood, if it wasn't for that silly mistake that led to us conceding that goal, the rest of the game, the defense was fairly solid. So I think we've made strides defensively. Absolutely. We got those goals against Wigan. I was hoping that would spear us on into the Charlton game to be more attacking minded. As you mentioned, there were a few headers from Stewart. There was another chance in about the 50th minute or so that got us all in the pub excited, but we just couldn't break the deadlock. And that was frustrating given the stage of the season that we're in, because, we can't afford to drop points or can't afford to drop many points at all between now and the end of the season.
No, I completely agree with you. I think if we'd drawn 0-0 against Charlton in November, we'd have been okay. It's not a bad point. Actually, Charlton's a good team at home, and we'd have been happy. But it'd been March, and us having gone through the January and February we went through, it felt like a missed opportunity.
Yeah. The Charlton game could have gone either way because although they didn't really have many chances, they did have that one chance right at the end in injury time, which could have been very much us doing a Sunderland and, bossing the game with 63% possession and having most of the shots on target, and they could have snatched it right at the end. So, we're still in a very precarious position. And we can let ourselves be put in that position where we can still lose a game.
Yeah, so I think we were a little bit wasteful in front of goal. It was great to see Broadhead back against Charlton, and I liked his work rate, his ingenuity. Again, I was happy to see Gooch in the team. I think he brings a different dynamic to the team that they don't have when he's not on the pitch. And I think if you look at Fleetwood yesterday, the sense of urgency on getting the ball back wasn't there until he came on the pitch.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I won't shy away from being a fan of Lyndon Gooch. And if Gooch is a fan of the podcast, he's welcome on anytime. But I definitely think he gets a rough deal from the supporters because he's not Cesc Fabregas, or he's not what everyone thought he was going to be when he broke through into the team as a very young kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of that may be down to Lyndon not applying himself as much as he should, because he should be pissing over everybody in this league. But also, I think when you look at the quality of the team we've had for the last 4 years that he's been with us, again, he's only been with us playing for 5 seasons now as a regular. The whole team's been awful. He's been moved left, right, centre. I think goalkeeper's probably the only position he hasn't played so far. And I'd like to see us sign him and give him another contract. I think he deserves it.
I would love to see him be a success at Sunderland because, he's been here since such a young age. He's almost a local product. And it was interesting to hear that they were considering letting him go in the transfer window. There was a lot of talk about it. I never really heard anything kind of official from the club on that. Obviously, they wouldn't announce something unless somebody was, signed and out the door. But his contract's up at the end of this season. So I don't know. I haven't heard any whispers about whether they're actively negotiating a new one. I don't know what the club's new philosophy is on that sort of thing at the minute. Will they wait till the end of the season? Will they try and tie something up before the end of the season? Are they waiting to find out what division we're going to be in before the end of the season, before they make a lot of strategic decisions on the squad? I don't know.
You've got to think if Speakman is as good as he comes as advertised, you got to think that that's got to be the mindset with every player whose contract is up at the end of the season. Because you don't want to put somebody on League One salary and then find them in the Championship and they're just not motivated to play Championship football. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you don't want to gamble on us being in the Championship, paying them Championship wages and end up being in League One again. So I can understand that. I think the only way we go up this season is via the playoffs. So I think it'll be very late. Contract renewals if they come, and hopefully before that June 1st window where everybody's out of contract and can move around now. Yeah. I think the saving grace is that domestically they can't negotiate with other clubs until they're out of contract. Mm-hmm. So we have a little bit of time on those ones yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, going back to the Charlton game briefly, obviously Broadhead and Stewart started. I thought we waited too long to bring Robertson. I think Roberts proved last night that he's a direct threat. Mm-hmm. But not having another striker on the bench, I think Defoe was a little bit tight and didn't make the squad.
Yeah, I mean the 3 out-and-out strikers that we've got are Broadhead, Pritchard, Stewart. Pritchard, Stewart, Defoe.
You're classing Pritchard as an out-and-out striker?
Hang on a minute. I was looking at the squad list on
Stewart, Broadhead, and Defoe.
Yes, that's the 3. Baby brain not working. So we've got Stewart, who is obviously
if he has
successful.
A pulse, he starts.
Scores the goals that we need him to when he gets the service and can put them away. We've got Broadhead, who's just returned back from injury, and we've got Defoe, who hasn't played football in a long time, played his first game last weekend, and then needed timeout and physio because of a hamstring tweak, which is to be understood at his age and given the lack of football.
I need a physio just getting out of bed.
So really, we are fairly exposed up front. So to see Broadhead come back in so quickly wasn't a massive surprise, just because we are so constrained when it comes to strikers. Obviously, Broadhead didn't make the squad at all for the Fleetwood game, so perhaps they're trying to, while they had to throw him in for the full 90 minutes when Defoe wasn't fit.
I think Neil has said that Broadhead was just feeling a little bit of tightness after the game, which again, you're going to expect after such a long layoff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully we'll see him in the squad again this weekend. Whether he needs to play 90 minutes, whether he needs to start, I don't know. Obviously, Defoe looks like he's back, so they might have a little more of an option, and obviously it depends which formation he wants to play. But we're a bit thin on the ground when it comes to attacking options, and that is a concern in the run-in. We need all hands on deck.
The question I have for the club is there not an under-23 striker who can make the jump? I mean, are the under-23s just not scoring? I'm not following them at the moment. It's like
I haven't followed them massively either, but I think one thing with under-23s football is sometimes it's really hard. You can't just automatically make the leap from under-23s football to League One first team football. I think a big factor in me saying that is that you've seen someone like Jay Matete come in, who's had a lot of games in Fleetwood's first team this season, and he was able to come into the team and be effective from the off. Whereas you have a lot of our youngsters come through, sometimes they come in and they have a few games, and then like we see that they're not quite ready for the first team. I don't know that the under-23s is really as competitive as a setup as it needs to be.
No, I miss the days of the old first team reserves.
Yeah.
Where the reserve league seemed to be stronger. But like, not even to bring in an under-23 striker just for the bench. I mean, it's a player that most teams won't have any data on. You can put him on with 10 minutes to go and just say, run your legs off, see what you can do. See, she agrees with me.
She does. She's asking for more blueberries.
Oh, okay. Well, you can't deny that. Okay, so Charlton, disappointment.
I mean, yeah, at this stage of the season, you've got to look at it as 2 points dropped as opposed to a point gained. I mean, I think the positive is we look more organised defensively now after the Wigan and Charlton games, and with the exception of that one defensive error against Fleetwood.
Oh, let's be honest, because it wasn't just one defensive error last night. It was one defensive error that cost us. So I think we've started to get a grip on things defensively. I think resting Doyle was the right thing to do. I think Arby's making it difficult to put him back in, but I don't see Arby playing Saturday against Crewe.
Well, I think they've obviously been very cautious with Arby because he's had this long rehabilitation. I don't see them playing him every single game between now and the end of the season, because I think probably have to be a little bit cautious with him. But that's why I think
we'll see Doyle come back next week or on Saturday.
Yep.
Wright needs to step his game up. He's been a little bit lethargic, and he seems to rely on the youth and exuberance of Doyle and Arby, and kind of switches off. And it cost us yesterday. Like looking through the chat log from our in-game chats with the NASA guys, I think I was done with football by halftime. And if I'm honest, I had an errand to run after the match. I went out at halftime and did it, not bothered if I get back in time to catch the second half.
So I was similar. So the way the first half went, I thought, right, this is us losing the game. I can't see us, pulling this back and getting 3 points. What I got to, it was definitely 1-1. I think it was second half. She needed a nap, and I was very, very tempted just to put her in the stroller and go and take her for a nap walk, because I thought, well, this game's only going one way. So, I was very, very happy with the outcome of the game. Very pleased to see that we did get those additional 2 goals and win 3-1. But the performance didn't reflect that scoreline. And
No.
I was pleased to see that Alex Neil also said the same. I haven't watched all of his post-match interview, but I saw some sound bites on Twitter, and he was effectively saying, awful performance, great result, need to perform better.
Yeah, he said he can't remember a team of his playing worse and winning.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, literally, we go 1-0 down to a ridiculous mistake. And for once, it wasn't Corey Evans' problem. And heads dropped. It wasn't like... I mean, I'm now struggling to remember a time where someone's heads didn't drop at the first goal.
Yeah.
Like when Steve Bruce was our manager, we'd go through those runs where Bruce famously has losing streaks, but you wouldn't necessarily see heads drop.
Yeah.
And the last 8-9 years of supporting, you see that first goal go against us when we're level, and heads drop and body language changes, and we just haven't had that character to be able to turn around and go, no, this isn't right. Get your asses.
Did you continue your Evans watch in last night?
So for those of you who don't know, I don't like Corey Evans. I think he's a waste of a shirt. He brings nothing to the club. And against Charlton on Saturday, I decided to pay particularly close attention to him and just work out whether I'm being harsh on the guy or whether he is just shit. And whilst I will say that he is just shit, I was able to point out a number of instances in the very first time we did this call. I comment on the fact that he'd had Mateta to thank on a number of occasions for getting him out of mistakes. But no, yesterday I didn't do Corey watch.
I mean, I think the substitutions almost spoke for themselves, though, in the fact that we livened up after the substitutions, and he was one of them. So
yeah, definitely. And again, look, he's the captain. He's going to start most games, but I still say he's an empty shirt. I don't see what he brings to the table. I think if you're playing the formation that we started yesterday, where you have Roberts and Clark on the wide of a forward three, then you can't really afford to have two defensively minded midfielders holding. You have one Mateta combative defensively minded midfield player, and then you have two more attacking minded players, Ambleton and Gooch, or Ambleton and whoever else you want. But that's why I think we looked a lot different in the second half when we made the changes that we made. Because, as you said, I got a call from my daughter, can you go pick up this for me from my doctors? Not a problem. I looked at it, it was about 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. Well, okay. It was getting busy on the roads. It took me longer. I came out of that office with what she needed and going, yeah, I might just stop for coffee on the way back. Don't really care about this. But me being me, I've got the app on the phone, so I put the video on and then put the screen down so I wouldn't be distracted to watch it while I'm driving. So I'm listening to it in the car, and we went 1-0 up. We came back to 1-1 through Ambleton. I was at a traffic light, and I'm like, oh, not bad. And then decided to nix the coffee and went straight home and watch it on the big telly. But second half, we'll not talk about the first half performance. It was bad, uninspiring, insipid. No, without cursing, it wasn't it.
Yeah.
Our second half performance was a lot better. And so once you bring Evans off, and obviously I was out running about, so I don't know who the forward placed off the top of my head.
I was also running about looking after this.
Okay, so let me just pull up the lineup, and Evans came off. Oh, right, Kate. Gemelli came off at halftime.
Yeah. So Defoe came on, Gooch came on, and 09 came on.
And let's be honest, the introduction of 09 was the difference, I thought.
I was really pleased to see him come back on and have that immediate impact of scoring the goal in his first appearance back. I think he brought a level of energy to the side that we haven't seen in a while. And also, you know, he gets a lot of stick from a lot of fans, but actually I think he's a good leader on the pitch. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He clearly cares about the club. And he's got his head screwed on right.
I think he's everything that Evans isn't. He plays a similar role as Evans when you put him in midfield, but he'll break up play the way that Mateta will. So if you've got, but he's also attack-minded as well, as you see him getting forward to bundle in the rebound for his goal yesterday. I don't think you would see Evans in a similar position, or at least not frequently. And O'Nien has popped up more than a few times in his Sunderland career with decent goals.
Yeah.
But I think 3-1 flattered us.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the way those last 10 minutes went, I don't think Fleetwood could have had many complaints if we'd had 5.
Oh yeah, we definitely could have had more chances come the end of the game. So it is, you know, it was very much chalk and cheese first half, second half. And I think, you know, the changes that Neil made and the stage of the game that he made those changes were positives to me. You know, making a halftime substitution, the other substitution was 70 minutes. You know, a complaint of many Sunderland supporters over the years is that we've had managers that don't change things until like the 85th minute. And like, you know, in a lot of situations, what good is that? So I was pleased to see that he wasn't scared to change things around when it clearly wasn't working before that.
Well, let's touch upon something that always irritates me at this level. It irritates me in the game full stop, if I'm honest. And that's time wasting. Like, it was what, 25, 20, 30 minutes when Fleetwood went 1-0 up, and that's when the time wasting started.
Yes.
You've got an hour of the game to go, and the players are going down. The kid who came off at just before the half time, their striker, Harrison, he must have gone down 4 or 5 times before he was eventually brought off.
Yeah.
And look, I understand that a level of time wasting is part and parcel of the game, but it would be interesting to see just how many of the 90 minutes are actually played and how many are lost to dead ball situations.
Yeah.
I remember about a decade ago when I was back in the UK for a while, I think someone had done a study, and the average football game only lasts about an hour, and you got about half an hour of interruptions. And I would like to see us stop the clock.
But you want to see us go the model of the American sports and play every single minute.
I mean,
turn it into a game.
It wouldn't be a 5-hour game because you wouldn't have timeouts and things like that. And I think it would encourage teams to get on with things. I think you'd see more goals. I think, yeah. I mean, Tuesday night games when you're down in London, you got to make that 10 o'clock train from King's Cross back to the northeast would be a little bit trickier. But yeah, I'm sick of teams.
I mean, I'm sure it would be interesting to know, like, if it was to be played like that, what would the impact be? I don't think you would get the consensus around the world or with FIFA to make any change anytime soon. But it's an interesting concept.
I mean, we see it week in, week out. We've done it once and we thought it was cool when we did it, but we bitch and moan when it's done to us. But to be time wasting from the 30th minute, it's embarrassing.
Now, there was a point, was it in the second half, when the ball went into the crowd, into the Roker end, and some fans were batting the ball amongst themselves in the Roker end before.
I don't think that ball made it back on the pitch. I think someone made off with that one.
They used a second ball. Yeah, they brought a second ball on the pitch. So that was our fans doing a bit of time wasting as well. But yeah, certainly when it comes to in-game time wasting, there's a certain level of kind of sportsmanship that you want to see. But yeah, not to the extent that Fleetwood wasted yesterday.
Now, we have to admonish the young boy Clark a little bit because he screwed up your bet.
Yeah. So
for those of you who do watch to the end of each episode, we're running a prediction thing with our guests. And when we did the original recording, I had it down as a 2-0 Sunderland win. Rebecca had it down as a 2-1 Sunderland win. And with 90 minutes on the clock, 2-1 it was. And the Bradley Lowry Foundation was getting another 30 quid. Unfortunately, Clark scored an absolute screamer from outside the box and buggered the bet.
It's a shame, but it was a fantastic goal.
It was, and I think it'll give him the confidence to go on. He looks a lot more dangerous when he's less step overs and less kind of cutting in and being more direct.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think Sunderland look a lot more dangerous when you see. I mean, if I was a defender at this level, watching Roberts get to the byline, I'd be petrified. Because it's not going to be long before him and Stewart start to get that kind of telepathy that you get with your providers, and he's going to be whipping them in for low or high from the byline, and Stewart's really going to start to feast on those.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we need. I mean, hopefully the result and those goals, if not the performance, will give the team again that continued confidence that we've seen building since the Wigan game, and then more will click into place against Crewe and the forthcoming games. My reservation with Crewe coming up is that they're at the bottom of the league and we can have a Sunderland style slip up somewhere.
I mean, it's always my worry. Like, I have that worry with every game. Doesn't matter how far ahead we are, how long's left. Until that final whistle blows is the only time I kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Like, even at 3-1 yesterday, I was like, I mean, we were 3-1 and they were down to 10 men and they weren't really putting anything into it. But it still would be a very Sunderland thing to do, to scrape a draw from a 3-1 win. So I understand where you're coming from with that. So let's talk about the Crewe game. Bottom of the league, winless in forever. Got turned over yesterday. Who did they get turned over yesterday by Portsmouth 3-1. So they're coming to us low on confidence, but poor form. You got to bet for a Crewe win, don't you?
That's it. I mean, like I say, we can quite easily do a Sunderland. I'm not confident enough in the momentum we're building yet to say, right, we're going to storm the remaining 9 games of the season. You know, I would like to see us win, and again, I think we'll probably win 2-1. I would like it to be 2-0. I'd like us to get another clean sheet, but yesterday proved that we can slip up to some silly individual mistakes. So I'm going to go 2-1 for my prediction for this weekend.
Okay, so at 2-1, it's 7-1 odds. We'll get that bet laid with our call very shortly. I feel a little bit more confident in Sunderland. I think Crewe have just looked so bad all season. I'm going for a 4-0 win. And we got odds of 14-1.
Excellent. I'd be happy with that result, Gav. Okay,
so away from the actual matches, Monday saw the release of the minutes from the supporters groups meetings with KLD. What were your thoughts?
There's a few things that I took out of those. I mean, I've only had a chance to read through them once, but I mean, he reiterated again that he has control of decision making, and you know, I don't know what else he can reasonably do to show people that he has control within the constraints of the fact that it is a private company and shareholding agreements will be confidential.
I mean, with $2.5 billion in the bank, just splashing out the 11 million to get rid of the Roberts.
So here's the thing, like, I find that people who have a lot of wealth are very careful with how they spend it, mostly. Not in all cases, but mostly. And if they don't think something's a good commercial deal, then they'll think twice about doing it. So he was obviously happy enough with the commercial deal that got him 41% and control, which he probably paid per share the same amount that Donald and Methven are looking for per share for the remaining, the 39% that they've put up for sale. But that doesn't put KLD in any stronger position if he already has control. So he's probably, or looking at what he previously paid on a per share basis as there being a control premium within that price that he paid. If he wants to buy the additional 39%, all that it does is commit him to more spending on the club in terms of pro rata funding in the future. It doesn't give him anything else in terms of control because he already controls the decision making.
No, I understand that. I understand that perspective, but when you look at the amount of money he's allegedly worth, it's like he's not going to miss it. It's like they're spending $20 on an extra round of drinks for the lads. So
yeah, so that's the business side of it. On the fans side, on the emotional side, you think, yeah, okay, 11 million is just a dip in the ocean to him. Now, I think I've seen some chatter about the fact that he only gets access to his billions in full when he turns 25, which is later this year.
So maybe that's his birthday present to himself.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's a constraint or whether he just doesn't see the financial sense in paying what Donald and Methven want.
Well, why don't you just get your brother to buy the other half?
He probably also doesn't get money until later this year.
So apparently, I didn't realize that KLD was a twin, and that they both have a $2.5 billion trust fund waiting to mature in like weeks or months.
Yeah, maybe. So that's one thing. Then there's obviously been some brinkmanship going on over the last few days. So, you know, the supporters meeting that was held before this, where Steve Davidson said that KLD was open to buying more shares. Can I just get her out of a chair?
Yeah, go for it. But no, she has to stay where she is.
Yes, I am. Sorry. You're back. She's got blueberry all over her face.
When I edit this, I'll be like, oh, and if by magic a baby appeared.
So anyway, as I was saying, I think there's obviously been some brinkmanship going on between KLD and Stuart Donald and Methven, because what we've seen is in the previous fans meeting, Steve Davidson saying that KLD was open to buying more shares. Then we had Charlie Methven email communication in response to a question from Roger Report about, you know, what Donald and Methven's position was, and Methven was clear in the fact that you know, if KLD wanted to buy the shares, it would be a quick process, but currently those shares are offered for sale at 11.7 million with a broker, which suggests that they're looking externally for someone to buy their shares. Now, the fans meeting that happened last week, and the minutes that were released on Monday, KLD said, you know, if somebody with sufficient funds and who shares the vision for the club is interested in buying those shares from Donald and Methven,
and he would pass the fit and proper test.
And pass the fit and proper test. He, you know, would be open to them investing, but he wouldn't relinquish control. So there's obviously messages being sent out via various public means between KLD and Donald and Methven, each trying to kind of get one up on each other, I think, in terms of their bargaining position. So I think from what I've read online, some fans have taken KLD's statement, or the description in the minutes of KLD's position, being that, you know, KLD wants somebody new to come in. He doesn't want to buy the shares himself. But actually, I think that was KLD, you know, laying down the gauntlet to Donald and Methven, saying, if you can find someone who's willing to pay your inflated price for those shares, who wouldn't have a controlling stake and control with decision making and can pass a fit and proper test, well, all well and good, go and find that person, because actually I think it's going to be quite difficult to find somebody who would fit all that criteria.
As we'd say back home, knock your sell out, Bonnie lad.
Yes, I think that's my interpretation of that part of the minutes.
So can I just pull one thing from the minutes?
Yeah.
Right. You'd had the meeting with Steve Davidson the week before, 2 weeks before.
Yes.
And you bring the same petty shit up with the big boss. Oh, the tannoy doesn't work. The left toilet in the men's on the main stand is not in flushing. Like, come on, guys. Like, I understand it's like not high level boardroom discussion, but there's stuff that KLD didn't need to talk about.
Well, I mean, you say that, but then those sorts of things were used in a in response to questions around, you know, the level of investment into the club. And it sounds like they are having to invest in a lot of infrastructure related things that, you know, haven't been very well maintained over the years. So it's clear that there is investment needed both on and off the field to get the club back where it needs to be. So I don't think it's the worst thing for him to know that there are certain things that impact people's match day experience, because if people have a poor match day experience, that could influence whether they turn up at future games or buy season tickets. I think that
anybody who ever experienced the tannoy at Walker wouldn't complain about the Stadium of Light tannoy.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Staines, the main stand. That was Walker. I mean, and we loved it.
The PA point was brought up as more of a health and safety issue than anything else. But yeah, I get your point on that. But
it's not like you would go to a meeting with the president and complain about the pothole on your front street. It's it's kind of, you judge your audience, and this is why things like the BL, as much as I like the Black Cats groups and the Supporters Trust and all of those, it's also my mental block with kind of, it's almost like the trade unions and the committees and things like, was like, yeah, okay, look, raise this a committee and we'll raise this with the club. And then the club can raise this with the owner. But if it's not, but you don't need to raise it with the owner just because you happen to be in front of him. Like, I'd see it when I was working in corporate America all the time. And like, people would talk about very private, like the CEO would come to the office. And all of a sudden now they're talking about things that are one-on-one issues that don't have and it just irritates me. I get annoyed very easily at these things.
But I think different groups have different priorities. And I think that obviously it's something that's important to them, and it's things that are being raised to them by their members. So, you know, I think it might not be the most pressing matter for Kirill, but I think it's important for him to hear the range of views of different fan groups.
I can see that point. As I say, it just annoys me. I could physically getting annoyed by reading the minutes. I was like, oh, come on.
A couple of things that I did think about through the minutes. I mean, I'd sent a few questions in around the ownership and the structure of the shareholder agreement. And what I was interested to see was, you know, was there any indication of an option for KLD to buy the shares, like have an offer of first refusal? Mm-hmm. And was there almost like not necessarily a pre-agreed price, but a pre-agreed maybe mechanism for valuing the shares if they were to be sold between Donald, Meth and KLD? And he seemed to say that there was not a pre-agreed price,
which seems a little naive.
That was my thinking too. So, you know, I've seen in these sorts of arrangements where there are multiple owners, you know, one way that the controlling shareholder can be protected is that there's something like potentially a kick-out clause. So if the smaller shareholders either don't because they can't or don't because they won't fulfill their pro rata funding requirements, then, you know, the controlling shareholder can acquire their shares.
Similar to when FPP made the investment.
Yeah.
So I remember when FPP picked it up, it was if you default, the ownership of the club reverts over to us.
Yeah, and I've seen contracts where there are like, you know, it will, or you have the option to buy the smaller shareholders out at such and such a price or at a fair value on a certain date or like according to this calculation mechanism. So I was hoping that there was going to be something like that, or that he would, you know, indicate that there was some additional kind of protections within the shareholder agreement, and he didn't seem to state or be comfortable saying that they were.
Well, you have a scrummy baby there, so we'll do one more point that I want to raise, and then we'll let you get on with Big Mama. The one thing, and again, it may be I think it's probably going to be a slightly unpopular opinion I have. I'm quite happy that Sartori seems to be committed to the club. He only has 20%, but I think his connections and the potential for his investment later on with his connections with Monaco and his father-in-law, and I think we'd be remiss to kind of discount that.
I think I'm a little, I don't know how I feel about Sartori, to be honest, because I think he is indelibly linked to Mad Rocks, as was. Now, I think he is, I'm kind of coming around with the idea that he seems more aligned with KLD because of those business interests and the social connections that they've got in Europe. But I think, you know, he's still very much an unknown quantity. You know, we've always heard that he wants to be involved, but we're not quite sure what capacity and how much involvement he has. Now, I know he's on the board of directors. He decided to retain his seat on the board of directors when Donald and Methven decided not to take up their seats on the board of directors. So we know he is involved, at least in a non-executive directorship position. I do think he could come good. I think until we know that the club have severed ties as much as possible with Donald and Methven, there's still going to be questions about Sartori and what his agenda is.
Yeah, I like the fact that he stayed far enough back from Salmon Pants to not get tarred with that brush that we all hate, Methven. I dislike Donald less than Methven. I don't know why that is. I think Donald legitimately came in with a plan and went tits up, and okay, he didn't have the money to back it up, but it is what it is. But with Sartori, obviously you've got his his father-in-law is Russian, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So it depends whether his father-in-law's got any money left or access to any of it. But you've got that Monaco link there. Obviously, KLD's family still has 5% stake in Marseille. As we get better and as we start to climb up the pyramid again, back into the championship and hopefully into the Premiership, I'd like to see us really reach out and use those agreements or set agreements with those two clubs.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think KLD, I think he's genuine. I think he's possibly been a bit naive when he's first kind of bought into the club, because he probably didn't know the full extent of, you know, the fans' views of the previous controlling shareholders. I think I absolutely am happy to give him the benefit of the doubt in this whole situation for now. And I think, you know, time will tell with how Donald and Methven exit the club. I think they will exit the club. It's just a question of when and a question of how good a deal they get. As unpalatable as it is for most fans, they're probably going to walk away with more than what a lot of fans think they should walk away with.
Yeah, and look, fans always have opinions and they're welcome to their opinions, but doesn't necessarily mean they know what's going on behind the scenes. Anyone, I mean, you work for, you're with PwC, so you see things at a pretty high level. I've been in the business. I've run my own business, so I've seen dealings of how businesses are bought and sold. And honestly, if one of my candidates had told me I didn't have the right to own this business, I'd have like, no. Like, look, if you want to have a say in the running of the football club, buy it. That's always been my opinion. I can't afford to buy it. That way, I'll criticize, but I'm not going to deny somebody the right to own a football club just because I don't like them, with the exception of Donald and Methven now. But Rebecca, listen, thank you very much for taking the time to reschedule this one, even with Little Miss. We have gone, sorry.
A couple of plugs. Well, a disclaimer as well. Anything I've said in here is not related to my employer and is just my personal opinion. So there you
go. So PwC can't fire you.
Just with respect to the North America Supporters Association, so if anybody is interested in signing up, feel free. We have membership for $5 per person or $10 per family. safcnasa.com/membership.
We'll put the email, we'll put the link in you'll be over here this time because I kind of switched the windows around. So you'll be over here. I'll put the link in the YouTube description.
We have our annual general meeting, which is going to be virtual on April the 9th. We have Simon Pride from BBC Radio Newcastle lined up as our special guest speaker. If anybody doesn't know him, he's the host of the Total Sport section on BBC Radio Newcastle, which has a phone-in element, so he speaks to fans, and he also has ex-players from the Northeast clubs joining him to comment on the goings-on around the club. So I think he'll be an interesting person for us to chat to.
And when is that AGM?
April 9th, straight after the game.
9th. And the game is against?
Oxford.
Oxford, okay. So
yeah,
we have Degsy on as our post-Oxford game, so
yeah.
I think I give him a chance to rant again about the ownership.
Nice one.
But yeah. And you guys are all meeting up again on a regular basis in Toronto? In
Toronto, we are, yes. The bar that we used to go to before the pandemic is now all set up again for us to go. So most Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. But look out for events posted on our Facebook page and our Twitter feed. And, we're also keen for other regions as well to start getting together in person if people are comfortable in setting up those events. But equally, we will continue to do our monthly virtual events, which have included, most recently, Gavin doing a trivia quiz for us, which we all enjoyed. So, yeah, we are happy to connect with people virtually and in person to create a good community of Sunderland fans in North America.
So for those of you who saw episode 1 with Sean Coxon, he's the New York branch guy. I'm no longer in the New York area, but I will for the right game. I will drive up from Virginia Beach for that. Sean, so get your finger out. But Rebecca, thank you very much for taking the time again to re-record this.
No worries.
Guys, we will be back on Monday with Paul Weir, who's living in Connecticut. Paul is a Sunderland fan who's traveled the world supporting the lads. Until then, hopefully we'll have a good result against Crewe. We'll see you all next week.